Before it was a $500 million collectible asset empire, it was just a hustle to sell a 1 cent piece of sugar during the Great Depression.
No team logos, no holographic foil, and zero chrome. Just industrial chemistry, cutthroat legal contracts, and a family syndicate determined to rule the candy aisles.
Today, the lab is running a forensic audit on the ultimate survivor of the hobby. This is the true story of how an American bubblegum company engineered a global monopoly. Welcome back to the lab. Today we are stepping away from the modern grading slabs and diving deep into the corporate anonymity of the most powerful name in trading card history, Topps.
If you look at the modern hobby, Fanatics owns the landscape, having bought Topps in 2022 for $500 million. But to understand how they became valuable enough to command that price tag, we have to look straight at their origins, because Topps didn't start with sports, and they certainly didn't start with collectibles.
The story begins in Brooklyn, New York in 1938. Four brothers, Morris, Joseph, Philip and Abraham Shoren, took over their father's failing tobacco distribution business. The economy was staggering through the tail end of the Great Depression and tobacco luxury margins were tightening. The brothers needed a cheap, high-volume commodity to survive.
Their solution: industrial sugar. They found Topps chewing gum. The name Topps was chosen because they wanted to signal they were going to be the absolute best in the business. But back then, they were just competing for pennies against established giants like Flea and Bowman.
During World War II, the Shoren brothers made a brilliant manufacturing pivot. They developed a new, easily mass-produced bubblegum flavour, wrapped it in patriotic red, white and blue packaging, and launched it in 1947 as Bazooka Bubblegum.
It became an absolute financial juggernaut. Kids went crazy for it, but the Sharon brothers ran into an engineering problem. How do you keep consumers buying the exact same piece of sugar over and over again? Once the novelty wears off, you need an incentive.
In 1953 they found it. They hired a cartoonist to create a small comic strip featuring a character named Bazooka Joe. They printed these tiny comics on cheap paper inserts and wrapped them around the gum. That was the exact moment the corporate DNA of Topps changed forever. They realised they weren't just selling confectionery anymore, they were selling a media delivery system.
But it wasn't all smooth sailing. The financial history of Topps is marked by brutal, expensive corporate warfare. Once they realised inserts drove sales, they jumped into sports cards in 1951 to destroy their main rival, Bowman.
This led to the first Great Gum War. From 1952 to 1955, Topps and Bowman aggressively sued each other in federal courts over who owned the exclusive rights to use baseball players' likenesses. It was a massive financial drain that nearly crippled both companies.
How did Topps survive? Pure capital leverage. In 1956, Topps simply bought Bowman out entirely for around $200,000, effectively creating their very first sports card monopoly. but that monopoly drew the attention of the US Federal Trade Commission. In the 1960s, the government launched an antitrust lawsuit against Tops, claiming they were illegally locking out competition.
Tops fought it for years, eventually winning on a technicality because competitors were still legally allowed to sell cards. They just weren't allowed to sell them with gum. That loophole protected them until 1980, when a court ruling finally stripped Tops of its exclusive rights, opening the floodgates for Flair and Donruss.
Tops survived the Depression, survived federal antitrust lawsuits, and survived the 90s crash because their foundation was built on corporate ruthlessness. But their biggest financial transformation happened when they stepped away from sports entirely and partnered with a young filmmaker named George Lucas. Now, a lot of collectors think Tops jumped straight from baseball players to Luke Skywalker, but the truth is the Sharon brothers had been quietly running a laboratory experiment on Hollywood for decades.
Long before 1977, Tops was testing whether kids would buy cardboard assets based on fiction rather than sports statistics. In 1959, they released a set for the hit TV series Rawhide. In 1962, they shocked parents with the legendary ultra-violent Mars Attack sci-fi set. And by 1966, they were riding the wave of Beatlemania with the official Beatles trading cards.
They did sets for the Outer Limits, the Monsters, and even Planet of the Apes. But back then, entertainment cards were treated as secondary experiments. They were short-lived, seasonal runs designed to make a quick buck while a show or movie was hot, and then they were wiped from the factory floors.
Until a young independent filmmaker named George Lucas walked into the boardroom with a rough cut of a space fantasy film that every major toy manufacturer in America had already turned down.
In early 1977, Tops took a massive gamble. They signed a license agreement for Star Wars when the rest of the corporate world thought the movie was going to flop. But Tops didn't just slap a movie poster on cardboard and call it a day. They treated it like a visual creation masterclass.
And this is where the genius of Top's creative department comes in. They had to solve a massive technical problem. In 1977, there was no internet, no DVDs, and no home video. Once a movie left the cinema, it was gone.
Tops realised these cards could act as a portable physical archive of the movie. They sent their creative team straight to Lucasfilm to look at actual production slides, selecting frames that told a chronological story.
The gamble just didn't pay off. It completely shattered global factory production records. Tops had to run their printing presses 24 hours a day just to keep up with the insatiable global demand. But because they were caught flat-footed by the frenzy, The physical quality of these historic assets suffered immensely.
To understand why finding these cards in pristine condition today is a statistical miracle, you have to look at the primitive manufacturing methods of 1977. They printed on incredibly cheap recycled grey cardboard stock. Giant sheets were fed through mechanical presses and sliced apart using industrial steel blades. Because those blades stooled quickly under the relentless 24-hour print runs, the cards were often cut with jagged, fuzzy, rough edges, framed corners, and brutal off-center margins straight out of the factory packs.
And then you have the factory misprints. The absolute crown jewel of Topps anomaly law happened in Series 2, card number 207, the infamous Anthony Daniels as C3PO goldenrod card. A bizarre mechanical flaw or a piece of debris on the printing artwork plate created an explicitly suggested graphic defect right in the droid's groin area. Topps panicked, recalled the sheet and airbrushed the plate for a corrected version, but the uncorrected error card remains a legendary piece of non-sports history.
Between those cheap paper stock sticky gum staining the inside the wax packs and decades of playground wear, obtaining a flawless, perfect Gem Mint 10 from any grading company today is an absolute mountain climb. The population reports for perfect 1977 Star Wars cards are microscopically small.
But when the impossible happens and a perfect card survives the decades, the modern asset market company completely loses its mind. Just last month, in May 2026, at Heritage Auctions, a flawless Gem Mint PSA 10 copy of the 1977 Topps Star Wars card number 1, Luke Skywalker, crossed the auction block. It didn't just shatter records, it absolutely pulverized them, selling for a staggering, history-making $687,500 US. Once Star Wars shattered sales records, the Showan brothers realised they had a blueprint for absolute market dominance. Their strategy wasn't to print the highest quality card, it was to sign exclusive, right-of-first refusal contracts with Hollywood studios.
If Topps locked down an exclusive contract for a movie, it meant rivals like Don Russ, Flair or Skybox couldn't even bid on it. Topps put their competitors to the sword by starving them on hot properties. But this strategy came with a massive financial flaw. You have to buy the license before the movie ever comes out.
Through the late 70s, 80s and 90s, Topps went on a relentless license buying spree. When they guessed right, it was a license to print money. Sets like Jaws 2, 1978, Superman the Movie, 1978, Raiders of the Lost Ark, 1981, Tim Burton's Batman, 1989, and Steven Spielberg's Jurassic Park, 1993, kept the factory presses running around the clock.
But when the lab runs a forensic audit on their balance sheets for this era, you see the massive scars left by the absolute misfires. For every Jurassic Park, Topps bought 3 or 4 licenses for summer blockbusters that completely fizzled, or TV shows that got axed after a single season, leaving retail shelves clogged for decades.
Remember Tim Burton's 1996 big budget adaptation of Mars Attacks, ironically based on Topps Mars Attacks cards from 1962 or 1998's Lost in Space? Topps printed millions of cards for them, only for the movies to bomb, leaving store shelves clogged with boxes nobody wanted. They bought the rights to TV shows like Mork and Mindy or Xena Warrior Princess. Hot for a moment, but dead asset stock the seconds the ratings dipped.
So how do you survive spending millions on failed licenses? You lean back on your biggest piece of leverage, the Star Wars license.
By the early 1990s, there hadn't been a new Star Wars movie in nearly a decade. The vintage movie sets were long out of print, but Topps knew the fan base was starving for premium content. In 1993, they weaponized the license and created Star Wars Galaxy.
This was a massive shift for the lab to analyse. Instead of using cheap movie production steals, Topps commissioned elite comic book artists, fantasy painters and industrial designers to create original high art interpretations of the Star Wars universe on thick premium cardstock.
It was an absolute masterpiece of market engineering. It proved Topps could manufacture a high-grade collectible asset out of an old property without needing a current box office film to prop it up. It saved their non-sports division during the brutal 1990s junk wax crash.
That is the true gravity of the license. You can talk about Major League Baseball all you want, but Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker funded the survival of the modern Topps empire for nearly 50 years across wax paper, premium metallic chrome, widescreen film sales and ultra high-end hobby boxes. This is the relentless chronological ledger of how Topps mined a single universe.
To give you some indication on how Topps have maximised their Star Wars investment, here is the complete Topps Star Wars list since 1977. 1977, Star Wars, Series 1 through 5, blue, red, yellow, green and orange borders. 1980, The Empire Strikes Back, Series 1, 2 and 3. 1983, Return of the Jedi, Series 1 and 2. 1993 to 1995, Star Wars Galaxy Series 1, 2 and 3. 1995 to 1997, the widescreen era, A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi and the special editions. 1996, Star Wars Finest, the debut of premium chrome and refractor technology. 1999 to 2005, the prequel trilogy, standard and widescreen releases for episodes 1, 2 and 3. 2001, Star Wars Evolution. 2007, Star Wars 30th Anniversary Collection. 2009 to 2012, Star Wars Galaxy Series 4, 5, 6 and 7. 2012 to 2013, Star Wars Galactic Files Series 1 and 2. 2015, Star Wars Masterwork, the flagship premium high-end box era begins. 2016 to 2019, the sequel trilogy and anthology releases, Force Awakens, Rogue One, Last Jedi, Solo, and Rise of Skywalker. 2019, Star Wars Stellar Signatures. 2020 to 2022, The Mandalorian, Season 1 and 2, and The Book of Boba Fett. 2022, Star Wars Chrome Black. 2023, Topps Chrome, Star Wars Galaxy and Flagship Star Wars. 2024 Topps Chrome Sapphire Edition, 2025 to 2026 Topps Star Wars Smuggler's Outpost, and the legendary Masterworks lines.
Darth Vader didn't just rule the galaxy, Dad. He became the ultimate Cardfather. As we crossed into the new century, the game changed. Topps was no longer just a family-run bubblegum outfit gambling on summer movies. They became a corporate juggernaut facing massive international competitors like Upper Deck and Panini.
Their response, an aggressive worldwide land grab of current-day pop culture and sport licenses that continues to this very day.
They locked down the global phenomenon of Pokemon in the early 2000s with the Pokemon TV animation sets, riding the biggest wave in entertainment history. They swiped the exclusive rights to the WWE, turning wrestling icons into high-grade inserts chasers, and they aggressively expanded into international football, locking down the UEFA Champions League to conquer the European markets.
They didn't stop there. They bought the rights to mega franchises like Stranger Things, The Walking Dead, and Doctor Who. If a television show or sports league has a fan base willing to collect, Topps has deployed an army of lawyers to make sure they hold the exclusive printing rights.
They aren't winning today because they are the only ones who know how to print a card. They are winning because they out-negotiate, outspend, and outmaneuver everyone else to stay at the top of the food chain.
But as the physical landscape gets more crowded and paper costs skyrocket, the empire is facing its biggest inversion point.
As we head into the mid-2020s, the ultimate testament to Topps' corporate strategy became reality. In 2022, sports merchandising giant Fanatics completely bought out Topps for a staggering $500 million.
Fanatics didn't buy them for their printing factories. They bought them for their crown jewels, their unparalleled vault of exclusive licenses. Look at what the Topps empire currently owns right now. Major League Baseball, Formula One, UEFA Champions League, Major League Soccer, and the ultimate entertainment, Star Wars and Marvel Cinematic card rights. They have built an absolute fortress.
Cool sports world apart, what is actually left for rival manufacturers to fight over in the physical realm? It's a wasteland of niche markets and legacy nostalgia. Upper Deck is clinging fiercely to the NHL and college licenses, while smaller companies are forced to survive on unlicensed products where they have to airbrush team logos off jerseys.
But the real battlefield has shifted online. Topps isn't just fighting for shelf space anymore. They are fighting for digital real estate. While Topps invests heavily in their own digital apps like Topps Bunt and Star Wars Card Trader, they are facing absolute warfare from dedicated online digital marketplaces.
Platforms like Epic GG have captured massive audiences by securing exclusive digital rights for global esports leagues like CSGO and the ESL, allowing fans to trade, mint and showcase digital-only assets without a single piece of cardboard ever being printed.
And then you have the giant digital card ecosystem like Vivi, which completely bypassed traditional card athletics to lock down 3D digital statue and comic book licenses for Marvel, DC, and Star Wars. Topps is learning the hard way that in the digital frontier, legacy branding doesn't guarantee a monopoly.
But while Western legacy brands are fighting over the scraps, a massive geological shift is happening in the East. Enter the Chinese manufacturing juggernauts KU and Kakawa.
These companies aren't playing by old Western rules. KU has absolutely dominated the Asian market by securing ultra lucrative licenses like Ultraman, Naruto, and Transformers, producing cards with holographic foil tech and texture quality that leaves traditional Western paper stock looking archaic.
And Kakawa has shaken the global entertainment scene by producing high-end, heavily limited Disney and Marvel sets that command thousands of dollars on the secondary market. Topps is no longer the only big fish in the global pond. The East has weaponized advanced printing tech, and they are coming for the market share.
It's trust. Lately, the community has been rocked by heavy controversy surrounding Fanatics aligned breakers, live streamers who open cases of product for paying spot holders.
Everyday collectors putting a magnifying glass to the data have noticed a disturbing trend. A disproportionate number of grailed cards, the ultra rare, low numbered one of one seem to consistently surface on the channels of massive corporate backed breaking syndicates rather than in standard retail boxes opened at the kitchen table.
Whether it's a statistical anomaly or a flaw in the automated factory collation, it has created a massive rift. Everyday collectors feel completely priced out, viewing hobby boxes not as a fun collectible experience, but as a rigged lottery ticket where the house always wins.
Has it tough? Let's run a forensic math audit on what it takes to collect from right here in Melbourne, Australia.
Let's use a cold, hard, real world example. If you're an Aussie collector looking at a major US online giant like David Adams' Card World, you can see a hot new product like this Topps Deadpool Chrome hobby box, listed for its actual retail price of $384.95 US.
Now, to be fair, look at why people are chasing this specific box. The checklist is absolutely wild. You are hunting massive hit potential here, like the ultimate team up on card dual autograph of Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman.
Exactly. Or you could pull the lone signature card of the Cavalrine himself, Henry Cavill. For an entertainment collector, hitting a Cavill autograph or a Reynolds Jackman dual auto is an absolute dream pull.
It is, but watch what happens when we convert that standard $384.95 US dollars box to Australian dollars and add the reality of international logistics.
At current exchange rates, that box instantly morphs into $546.60 Australian before it even leaves the warehouse. But it gets worse. David Adams' standard international shipping rate to Australia adds an extra $136.95 US onto your checkout.
That's another $194.45 Australian dollars just in the air freight. By the time you click confirm order and get hit with local bank conversion fees, a single hobby box costs an everyday Aussie collector a massive $741.05 Australian dollars.
Think about that. Even with chasers like Henry Cavill or a Reynolds Jackman dual auto on the line, you are paying nearly $200 just in shipping to get cardboard to the edge of the world. It means local Aussie card shops have to price their physical inventory incredibly high just to break even on freight, forcing everyday hobbyists into a premium luxury bracket.
Exactly. When the barrier to entry for a single rip is half of the average weekly wage, for some people the hobby stops being about community and starts being about elite access.
So what is the ultimate verdict from the lab? Top survived for nearly a century because they treated the hobby like a syndicate. They weaponised bubblegum, cornered the sports market, and survived their mistakes by leaning on the cultural shield of Lucasfilm.
But today, as paper turns to chrome and chrome turns to digital apps, the everyday collector is caught in the crossfire of billionaires, brokers, and international shipping rates.
The Cardfather always wins, but whether the soul of the hobby survives, that's a forensic mystery for another day.
Let us know in the comments if you think the Fanatics monopoly is good for the hobby, or if Eastern giants like KU are the shake-up the industry desperately needs.
Before we sign off, we did email Tops with the hopes of getting an interview, or at the very least some of our questions answered, but to no avail. We will always endeavour to make sure we get our information directly from the source or from the most reliable sources that are at our disposal. So help us grow by hitting that subscribe button to join the lab, and we'll see you in the next episode. Keep hunting.